That which does not kill you makes you stronger. Or it might just leave you there twitching and praying for death. Either way, this is today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker, Residential Sales Manager of ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 152. And I am real, I am live, I am not Memorex. So, if you guys who paid attention last week, I had my appendix out on Christmas morning, so I tried a fancy little AI video to get something out there last Thursday, and I wasn't happy with it. It's just a thing. It actually took me longer than it would have just to hit record and talked, but I was at home, hadn't showered yet. Nobody needs that. So it's the new year, and we are having that New Year stuff. And what do I mean by New Year stuff, right? So got the wrap up on 2023 is a very eventful year in real estate. We're going to be talking about some of that. We've got the numbers that come out from Comfort saying here we are now compared to where we were this time last year. Business planning is going to start kicking off. A whole bunch of real estate agents are going to sit there and question their existence, and we'll get to that here in a bit. In fact, put a little note down. Remind me that to say that. And other than that, it's 2024. Okay, this is last 2 years when I've done this stuff. I sort of would do a projection of what I thought the next year is going to be, and age and wisdom has basically made me realize the folly of my foolishness and my arrogance, thinking I could project the future. I can project 3 months out. I might be able to give you a good idea about the next 6 months out. A lot of potential black swans out there. Black swan events are things that cannot be identified as possibly happening. All right. If you're looking at a secular downturn and then the cycle goes down, that's not a black swan event. Nuclear warhead detonating over LA, that's a black swan event. All right. That kind of stuff. It's a big difference between the two. Looking at the black swan events from last year, the Hamas attack on Israel. All right. A lot of people didn't see that coming. For a lot of people, that was a black swan. I'll guarantee you there's a couple, pointy-headed guys sitting in the bottom of some bunker somewhere in Tel Aviv who were warning about that and screaming and pushing the big red buttons, and nobody was paying attention to that crazy guy because he's a doomer. Same thing with 9/11. Black swan event for a lot of people. All right. Definitely for the culture as a whole. All right. I know for a fact there were people there writing articles and stuff going, hey, this is going to be a problem. This is a potential impact. We got to keep an eye out for these things. So that's the funny thing about black swan events is that there's usually that one crazy guy in a hair shirt with long hair living in a cave proclaiming doom and gloom. And that guy was right for that one moment in time. All right. So what do I see potential events happening in the real estate market? Definitely need to get these court cases figured out. We're going to see that appeal process to work through, but that's almost already baked into the cake. Interest rates, all right, seem to be trending down. We could see a sudden spike if we get bad inflationary numbers. Basically, anything on the real estate side of the house is going to be impacted by overall financial markets, right? So that's why we go really granular. That's why we look down at what's going on here in Phoenix. People are still moving to Phoenix. Interest rates are coming down. Right, we're still not building houses fast enough. Right, and looking at some of my social media stuff, some of these large housing area, apartment complexes, especially ones in the downtown areas, the tenants in there are not very happy with them. All right, so if you're a real estate agent out there looking to maybe find some buyers, you might want to do a mailer to some of these apartment complexes. Going, hey, fire your landlord, get the hell out of this hellscape, and go buy your own house. Just an idea. All right. So let's talk about the news real quick. Numbers first or news? Let's get the numbers out of the way. All right. Because we're going to lead into a lot of that with this. So here's the numbers for January 4th, 2024, beginning of the year. Wow. See that active number? That active number is so freaking wrong right now. Hold on. Man, I cannot believe I didn't catch that in quality control. All right, numbers for January 4th, 2024. Actives this week are 14,634, which is actually down 343 from the previous week. Our new listings are at 1,118, up 387. Contracts were at 1,362, up 148, and closings were at 1,370. Coming soon to an MLS near you is 432 new listings. Down on the bottom on Crawford numbers, this is the big changes. Supply is 63.7. That's up 1 point from last week. All right. Demand is at 69.7. That is actually also up from next week, which is leaving us with actually, supply went down. It used to be 64.7. So that's putting us at a Crawford number of 109.4, a 0.6 off of being back into what's considered a seller's market. Let's break it down into the individual regions. All right. Greens across the board. Okay, let's take a look. Chandler's up, Fountain Hill's up, Gilbert's up, Glendale's up. All right, let's call out the ones that are not up. Tempe down 5% month over month, or at 108.6. That puts them into a balanced market. Paradise Valley, forget about the rich people. Let's look at Cave Creek. Cave Creek is still doing what Cave Creek does, down 4% month over month. They're at 84.3. Definitely in a buyer's market. And Maricopa. Okay, this is going to be fun. Maricopa is down 8%. They were 69.6. Now they're at 64.0. Why is Maricopa such an outlier compared to Buckeye, Queen Creek, and Surprise, the other affordable housing markets? All right. Maricopa is also a long-ass drive to the south. All right. In many cases, it's when you sit there, it's like, if I can get the same house in Queen Creek, all right, if I can get the same house in Buckeye, if I can get the same house in Surprise at the same price, and I don't have that extra 20 minutes worth of travel, all right, let's go somewhere where I'm not traveling enough. Commuting is still a thing. All right. I think I was talking about this earlier today. Actually, it was yesterday, that I don't see the work from home thing becoming what we thought it was going to be. Business managers, business owners are wanting to see people in seats, in offices again. They're starting to say, okay, we want you to start working from home. So that nice little glorious thing we had over COVID where people were working from home is starting to go away, right? That's going to change the kind of housing and location of housing that people want, right? Is this going to have a big major impact? I don't think so. Definitely not as much as COVID did, which ran that whole thing up. But let's keep an eye on this. So Maricopa, if you were looking for the bargain and you can work from home, Maricopa is the place to be. All right. Buckeye and Queen Creek are really close to that, but Maricopa is definitely the big change on the board. So, and this knocks us into a couple other things that we can take a look at. Let's look at a couple of the news. Headline came out yesterday. Like I said, end of the year, everybody gets to do the reviews and stuff. 49% of licensed real estate agents in America did 1 or 0 transactions last year. 49%. If somebody tells you that they're a real estate agent, all right, there's almost a 50-50 chance they didn't actually do anything last year. All right, what does that mean? That means that our part-timers out there, when that pie shrinks, okay, what's the old saying? When the going gets weird, the weird go professional. Real estate agents, all right, performed. Part-timers thought this is going to be an easy side gig. Those side hustle people, maybe the spouse who wanted to tell their other spouse that they actually have a career. All right, not looking in a mirror. All right, but actually what I'm thinking of when I say that, I literally think about a doctor that I met a couple years ago. And we're talking, he asked me what I do. And I said, I'm a real estate agent. He goes, oh, my wife's a real estate agent. Then he starts talking about how she hadn't done anything that year. And I didn't have the heart to tell him. I was like, dude, well, she doesn't have to work. She married a doctor. All right. So she's got her little career going out to her little open houses and doing her little wine tastings and stuff like that. But, and that was a good year too, if I remember right. That was one of those, she should have had at least 3 or 4 closings if she was going into the office even once a week, even if she is making a minimal effort to get business in. So last year was really bad. Okay. And we're going to cover those numbers here in a bit because the last year's were really bad. There wasn't a lot of transactions out there, which meant the people who had to really work at getting transactions. So you didn't have that surplus that goes off into the part-timers. Right? If you are wondering if your real estate agent is a part-timer or a full-timer, see if you can call them during business hours. And if they answer the phone, I can tell you straight up, when I'm calling on a listing or I'm calling on a closing, trying to figure out what's going on, if they're not returning calls to me by 5:30, before 5:30, it's like 5:30, all of a sudden the phone, they're on the phone. They probably had a day job. All right. Happens a lot. In fact, once upon a time, 2 real estate brokers in Colorado, I think it was, got into a lot of trouble for something that I thought was the most ingenious marketing campaign ever. And all they had was they bought a billboard, and on that billboard there was a woman in the kitchen. Okay, let's get sexist here, boys and girls. This is what got them in trouble. Woman in the kitchen, cooking, phone on her shoulder, baby on the hip, another baby on the ground yanking at her. All right. The other side, these 2 gentlemen at the office, one's leaning over the other, they're looking at spreadsheets, that kind of stuff. You can picture it. All right. And their entire advertising of his campaign was, don't hire a part-time agent. All right. Let's take that a step further. How do we do that ad campaign without making it sexist as hell? Reverse the sexist. Okay. So now it's 2 women, one sitting at the, one sitting down at the desk, pointing something out on the computer, the other woman reaching over, maybe reaching out, they're having business conversation. And on the flip side, we'll have the guy, the part-time stuff, and he's not at a desk. He's at Starbucks. Or maybe he's the bartender, okay? Maybe he's washing dishes, right? Maybe whatever his part-time job is going to be. Maybe he's filling boxes at the at the fulfillment center down in Amazon. Maybe he's the Uber driver. Who knows? All right. I'm trying to think of all these part-time jobs, that I know real estate agents pick up on the time. So that's, this is part of the reason why leading to our next bit of news, National Association of Realtors saw its first drop in membership since 2012. All right. People are getting out of the business. It's something we've been projecting, for a year now. When things started getting weird, and this job didn't get easy, and to be honest with you, it never was easy. That was just Home and Garden Television telling you it was going to be easy. All right. People are starting to realize that $510 I got to write to NAR here in Arizona, all right, plus the licensing requirements, plus the CE requirements and everything else, plus paying for Armlist and Superbox and all this other stuff. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, and the squeezing is on your nuts. So, click. This YouTube channel is not suitable for children. So, yeah, we just saw the first part of that. We'll see more coming in third, fourth quarter. Notice we don't even have these numbers saying who did not renew their membership, which were due December 31st, if I remember right. I think you have to like the 5th to pay a late payment. Maybe it's 10 days. Maybe they'll extend that out, but we're going to see those numbers drop even more. People are getting out of the business. Other things that we got going on. I mentioned this a bit last week, and I really wanted to mention it some more. My former employer, First American Title, got hacked right before Christmas, and it was a big hack. It shut them down, and it shut them down in the worst way. They had closings that they had under escrow that were not closing. They had buyers who were not able to buy houses. They had sellers who were not able to sell houses. Money was trapped in accounts that could not be dispersed. Right. It was pretty big. Reached out to some of my contacts at First American. Nobody's told me exactly what happened. Might have been part of that Cisco router issue that they had a couple months ago. Not Fadco, but Cisco router issue had a security breach announcement that they dropped out, and a lot of people patched them real quick. Some people didn't patch, and that's created issues. So, but as of 2 days ago, First American was saying that they have restored majority of their online stuff. So we'll see how that works out for them. I haven't heard anything about that. If you're in that situation where you are under escrow and you have a closing date that is set to close, and then all of a sudden title has an issue, all right? I think under the contract, probably should have done the research on this. It's not the seller's fault. It's not the buyer's fault. All right, you're pretty much stuck in limbo. In many cases, you can't suddenly stop that escrow and open escrow at another title company, especially if money's been transferred. All right. Like your earnest deposit. The buyer has their earnest money in escrow. All right. It's frozen unless they have another earnest money deposit that they don't need. Then maybe you could open up escrow. But then title search has to happen again. Call for payoffs have to happen again. HOAs need to be talked to. Everything needs to happen again. And in this particular case, as I understand it, because First American is really big on going paperless. I was back there during the transition. They were really big on going paperless. How do you know how many escrows that you have open as an escrow officer when your computer's down and won't tell you? How do you get a hold of your real estate agents to let them know we got a problem if the phone number is on the computer that you can't get into anymore? All right? You can't balance the file. You can't do ClayUp. You are like locked in limbo. All right? So my heart goes out to the IT staff over at First American, my brothers and sisters in arms, the people, I think some of them might be around, that we used to stay up to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning doing a rollout because we couldn't possibly impact business. All right. And I can't tell you how many times I'd be sitting there at an office 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, ready to start a rollover. And I can't start because there's some escrow officer who is working, likes to work late, because if she didn't work until 9 o'clock every night, she'd just go home to her empty house with her cats and stuff like that, and that box wine sitting there on the countertop. You know, so I really feel bad for those guys. Peace out. Love you, my brothers. All right. Better you than me. All right. What else we got going on? Oh, another lawsuit. Here, Arizona was mentioned specifically in this one. This one is really, really unique. It's actually coming from our perennial favorite, Zillow. You know, those guys. Zillow has decided to sue Armless. Armless is the Arizona Regional Multiple Listing Service. All right, that's what we use to list properties, to find properties. All right. Zillow has decided to sue us, meaning them, because Armless decided to get rid of a software program that Zillow used called ShowingTime. I have a love-hate relationship with ShowingTime. ShowingTime is, how would I describe ShowingTime? ShowingTime is a system where you could sit there and schedule showings. You could look at the availability of showings. You could look at the property and then say, Saturday, I want to go look at 6 houses. All right. And you put them all together in like a little list, and you sort of look at them on the map and say, okay, we're going to go in a clockwise circle, or this is my route and this is how we're going to do it, and these are the travel times between everything. And then you put them into ShowingTime, and it would show you whether or not somebody was actually already going to show the house at the time. Right? It was really annoying when you had the original way where you just came up with your listing and you showed up at the house, and if there was somebody in there, you just waited. There's somebody waiting for you. You tried to go through the house pretty quick. And sometimes you'd sit there at the house and you'd see people in there and they'd just be talking forever. And sometimes you would accidentally be that person because you didn't realize somebody was outside. Sometimes you'd go through and see the house at the same time. I never had a problem with that. All right. But ShowingTime came in, it was so you could schedule these things. And of course, so listing agents could solicit feedback, get feedback from the buyers, and came through, hey, what did you think about this house? And it was really, really beneficial for owners who were occupying the house, because then they'd have a set schedule. At 1:30, a couple is showing up for 15 minutes to go look at the house. All right? Well, a lot of people had issues working with ShowingTime because ShowingTime was owned by Zillow. And I also know that, and so Armless came up with their own system. Can't remember what it's called right now. And so they got rid of ShowingTime. Well, Zillow's suing because of it. How dare you not use our product, all right? You are locking us out of the system because you've come up with direct competition and to start doing it, you know. So one of the things, and real estate really gets blindsided by all the time. But if you had paid any attention to Silicon Valley back in the late 90s, early aughts, right about then, lawsuits are a way of life, all right? You're not looking for your comparative competitive advantage over anything else. You're not just churning out the best product. You're not just coming in with the best marketing for the best product. You're also constantly throwing wrenches in other people's works and stuff. And one of the way is just sue them. I'm going to file a lawsuit against you saying that you're using my proprietary information. Yes, you're not, but I'm going to sue you anyways because you're going to have to go to court and prove that I'm not. Meanwhile, you're not going to be able to develop and release that product on the market until those lawsuits get set up, and that buys me another 6 months to get my product out there in space. Right? I know that concept is foreign to a lot of people. Obviously, you guys have never played Munchkin. All right, or any other gaming system where you can min-max and game the rules like that. Right? So in this particular case, Zillow is suing Armless for using this new system instead of their system, right? And saying you were locking us out of the market by not allowing your agents to have the opportunity to use us. All right, good argument. Zillow, are we paying you for that service? So what you're saying is that we developed something in-house that does exactly what you're doing for cheaper, and we decided we no longer needed to buy your goods or service. And now you're suing us for not being your customer. All right. Let the attorneys work this one out. Mm-hmm. I also, this is tinfoil hat, complete race speculation, have always been seriously concerned that showing time really was aggressive on wanting to have feedback. And I also know that once it's on the computer, it's there for forever. So if I give you feedback on your house going, wow, your kitchen sucked. Clients liked everything about the house except the kitchen is outdated. Zillow now knows that. Showing Time now knows it because they can just sit there and scan all the feedback that's already tied into your address. 4 out of 5 people say the kitchen sucked. Now Zillow knows that. How does this benefit Zillow? Well, Zillow was big on trying to be a flipper. So if Zillow can identify a property that is on the market longer than the average and can sit there and with an algorithm go, house on the market for longer, scan keywords in the review, bad kitchen, bad kitchen, bad kitchen. All right, we have a kitchen package that we can put in there for 10 grand. Let's make them a Zillow offer of $20,000 less. Right? It's like literally having every real estate agent out there previewing the properties for your potential purchase later on. Or maybe I just kick that offer over to a downstream service. Hey, would it be worth it to me to have a list of the 100 houses with the worst kitchens here in Phoenix? Yes, it would. Because kitchens are cheap and easy flip. Right? That just out of all the thousands of houses here in Phoenix, I just narrowed it down to 100 to work with. All right? A lot of people don't think this way, but guarantee you. Silicon Valley does, Zillow does, and smart investors do. So, yeah, we'll see. Well, that'll be fun to see how that one turns out. So, last thing, just to wrap up and everything like this is sales meetings next week. We are going to be going over business planning, and we covered how the rubber meets the road. All right, goal setting, goals, ideas. Business planning, how do we get there? Then the last one is, of course, is execution. And execution is where dreams go to die because people don't. But I'm also going to be covering this little article here. 5 things your broker is too nice to tell you, but you need to hear. That would be a great article for anybody in anything, 5 things your physical therapist is too nice to tell you, or you're a nutritionist or whatever. 5 things your spouse is too nice to tell you, but you need to hear. So, what does Ray need to hear? Ray needs to hear that he can start working out again because his appendix stuff sucks. All right. In fact, to be honest with you, the wearing pants right now sucks because my belt line hits right across my scar. The other things Ray needs to hear, and that you guys need to hear, is watch your children and pets around the water. All right. Remember, holiday seasons and everything like that, we know the routine. Don't drive in anything flooded. We haven't really had the winter storms yet, but end of January, early February does tend to be when it's kicking up. Work your circles now more than ever. Remember, it's going to be 2024. It's going to be an election season. the entire media industry is going to try to get you spun up about all this crazy stuff. You have zero impact on what happens in Florida this year. But what you do have an impact on is your attitude and your health. You can put down the cupcake. You can hit the treadmill in the morning. In fact, there's one thing that I've been working on this morning. I wake up in the morning and it's like I got this heartburn medication I'm supposed to take first thing in the morning. I didn't want to take it. I wanted to go back to sleep. And I went, or I could take it. And future Ray would be happy for me taking it. And I've decided my goal is to be future Ray's best friend. Right? Every time I look at something that I'm trying to defer and not wanting to do, I'm like, what's future Ray going to think about this? Is he going to think I'm an asshole because I didn't take freaking 30 seconds of my life to pop a freaking pill? All right. That wraps the whole thing up. And this is 2024. Let's see how the year goes. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much.